Nothing out here is for free. Well, why would anybody give you money? You have no relationship with money. You have no understanding of how money works. But you want people to give you money for you to go buy, fix, and flip? Develop that first before you want to get into business. Create a relationship with money.
Welcome, Fortunes of the Brave listeners. Mary Kathryn Johnson here, CXO of Planet Wealth. And I think we're going to have a pretty interesting conversation based on the first time I've met this gentleman. Daniel Borrero Jr. is here on the show with me. Daniel, how you doing today?
Excellent. God, it's a great day, especially when we wake up on this side of the dirt, right? Literally.
Hello, exactly that. We woke up today. How could it be a bad day?
Yeah, it's a great day.
It's a great day. So welcome to the conversation. Tell us, so for those people who don't know who you are and weren't together with us at an amazing event we had in New York recently, tell people who you are and what you do.
Yeah, my name is Dan Borrero. I've been a real estate investor since 1985. I've been real estate investor since 1989, but self-employed since 1985. So when we started in the real estate sector, primarily it was long-term holds, but it took me about 10 years to realize that if I wanted to scale, especially buying in the city of New York, especially in Brooklyn, New York, because of the acquisition price, I had to change up the formula a little bit. So that's when we started getting into the fix and flips and then using the fix and flip money, literally all the profits to go buy then long-term holds. And that's how we've grown our portfolio.
Tell me a little bit more about why that is. So were you talking about not having to then finance things and then you could take and basically it's just moving money around, right?
Right. Well, we still had to finance, but we were able to come up with that 35% down payment, right? Which gave us the additional leverage when we negotiated price and conditions of the deal. So that was the primary reason. But the other reason is because buying here in Brooklyn, New York, the acquisition cost is a lot more expensive, right? So the time that it takes to do it conventionally, the way we were always taught to do it, from school or our parents was, get a good job, save your money. Well, I wasn't able to scale fast enough. Um, so that's when we started getting to the fix and flips as well as flipping dirt. Like we went to Florida, we started buying a lot of lots. We were buying them at discounted prices and selling them at retail. And then we would just take all that flip money and just put it into the long-term holds. And then, of course, eventually those long-term holds get paid off and then it increases your cash flow. And, that's where the real wealth is created. When you do a fix and flip, when you do a wholesale deal, you're only as good as your last deal versus what long-term holds. It's continuous income, it's continuous equity growth, appreciation, tax deductions, and things of that sort.
Yeah, so basically you created a system where you could generate your own access to capital to be able to fund the next one, the next one, the next one, and be able to do that quickly enough that you could build a portfolio with wealth faster than the traditional, right, standard banks and having them be the decision makers. You were able to be in
Yeah.
control.
And in many times, especially with the fix and flips, because then we started going out to Jersey and New Jersey and Florida, where the acquisition cost was less, right? So those we were able to do even quicker, and because we were coming in with cash, using money that we had already made with our flipping of land or flip or fix and flipping, and because we're coming in with cash, contingent with less contingencies, we were able to negotiate better deals, more favorable to us. Um, but the best part is I wasn't paying interest and all those ridiculous fees to the mortgage broker, and additionally increasing my title costs because now we weren't recording mortgages, right? An additional title insurance to the lender. So it just continued to increase our profits.
Yeah. So, but let's back up a little bit because we just jumped straight to who you are now, and that's fantastic. And but we've skipped all those lessons, all those mistakes, all those things that basically led you to have this mindset of wealth building with the system you've put together. So, when you first started, how what were you doing before 1989. You said you were an entrepreneur in
I
85.
went to college thinking that if you go to college, you're going to get wealthy, quote unquote, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I realized, like, about the end of my sophomore semester, I was sold a bill of goods. I was sold, I realized that what they were teaching me was to go make somebody else money. And I got to tell you the truth, visiting colleges with my kids, I was so taken aback on how many universities are now teaching entrepreneurship, or teaching real estate investing, or different sectors of real estate business within the business department, right? And I'm sitting there saying to myself, oh my god, if I had this available to me, where would I have been? How much faster would I have been able to move? I was just fascinated that the colleges are finally starting to change their mindset, right? um so I'm not against getting a college education, but now I tell people, I tell my kids, all my kids have got college degrees. That wall back there is filled with their degrees. What I tell people is, don't go to college thinking it's going to make you rich. If you want to go to college to make you a more well-rounded person, absolutely do it. I don't have a problem with that. But I don't go to college thinking that that piece of paper on that wall is going to create any wealth for you. Because if you don't have it in your heart, and you don't have the desire and the willingness to leave it all on the field, like my football coach used to say, it's never going to happen.
Yeah. So then you, end of your sophomore year, realized you were sold a bill of goods. What'd you do then?
I couldn't come home. I felt like if I quit, I'd come home as a failure, right?
Yeah,
That wasn't an option.
yeah.
So I stuck it out, but I made sure I didn't have much student loans. So I had two jobs during college. I actually had to go to summer school for 2 summers because I didn't have enough time to do. I took the minimal credits to be full time, but I still needed to maintain work, right? So I could have as least student loans as possible because I didn't want to graduate with that debt. So when I graduated, I did go work for the government for a short period of time, did a lot of overtime, saved up a lot of money, and opened up a video store, believe it or not. And I didn't know anything about videos, but I was in that location for 22 years. Uh, yeah, we went from store grab, as things change, you change your business format, right? So we went from video rentals to beeper subscription sales and repairs. Now I'm really dating myself and showing how old I am. And, then we
That's all right. I'm right there with you.
then we went to cellular phones, and then I saw the writing in that wall when things were starting to change about 2 or 3 years before it happened. And I was like, all right, we're done. And that's when we got out of retail. But during those 22 years, my brother and I, we also bought and operated two laundromats. Um, we also had 14 ATM machines that we incorporated, dropping them off in different locations. So we were, we were constantly evolving in the retail side until we could, and then using those proceeds to just go buy more property. And then the idea was, if we couldn't walk to the property from that location from the office, we didn't buy it.
Wow.
That was the goal. Like,
Yeah,
it was planned.
yeah.
And that's why the majority of our properties in Brooklyn, for instance, are all centrally located within walking distance of each other. It was a
Wow.
lot easier to manage. So we were, running the retail, but that was 24/7. You don't want to spend time driving in a phone, driving
Yeah,
30 minutes, 40 minutes
yeah.
traffic. But I got to tell you, this thing here really changed things up, the phone. That's when, you know, it made me mobile, um, in smartphones. So that's when we then decided to get out of retail. We sold all the retail and strictly just did real estate.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, Daniel, there's only one person, well, everyone I've met that is a successful real estate investor, it always started as a side gig. Right? This wasn't the number one, they didn't just quit their job and then, go and completely 100% go real estate. It's always starts as a side gig. So Everyone listening to us, if you have an example of someone who that is not the case, please let me know because everyone, it's always a side gig, and that's just like any other entrepreneurial venture. Many of us have a job, we start something on the side, except people who are going to try and raise capital through VCs, through angel, that kind of thing. That's a different animal.
I mean, it was never a sidekick for me in the sense of my long-term plan was to always be strictly a real estate investor. It was just how do I get there?
You had to fund it somehow, of
How do I
course.
get the funds to do that without having the monkey on my back? God forbid, that we hit a recession or rent rolls come down. I didn't want that monkey on my back. But I mean, we were working. I mean, look, I tell people all the time, this is not entrepreneurship is not an easy life. People tell me they want to become an entrepreneur. The first question I ask them is why. And if they tell me it's because they want more time, I said, keep working for
Yeah,
somebody.
right.
Because that's not the reality. I went 7 years without taking a day off. Literally, we would get. I wouldn't say that. Every third week, I would take one Sunday off. And I thank God that my wife was on the same wavelength with me, because it's like two horses pulling a wagon. If one horse goes to the left and the other goes to the right, the wagon goes nowhere. So, you know, we had many of those deep conversations before we got married, during our marriage. Um, if it wasn't that I didn't have to worry about the house and my kids, I was able to concentrate in the business, right? So it's a tough life in the beginning, but it's an extremely rewarding life.
Yeah, yeah, and you set up, I mean, I know you're very procedural. You know the operations need to happen a certain way. How did you, so did, I'm sure the videos and the retail and all of that probably helped develop that. Is that correct? Or did you already have that beforehand?
Well, as a kid, I had to learn to be extremely organized. I'm a severe dyslexic. Uh, I'm the kid who came home in the small yellow school bus. Um, so if I wasn't organized, I was always lost. So I had to be organized. It was just life lessons, right, as a child. Um, But yeah, I'm very organized, sometimes too anal to the point where sometimes that could actually prevent growth. So it's you got to face those hard truths. Uh, Whereas my partner, my brother, he's the opposite. So I guess that's why it works, because he's the guy that I put my toe in the water before I go in. He just jumps in. So, so between the two of us, between the yin and the yang, somehow it works.
It takes
Yeah.
both. It absolutely takes both. But this is what I've seen. I really think of innovation. I don't think of innovation as the Steve Jobs and the Elon Musks of the world. I think of innovation as each of us coming with our previous experiences, our genetic makeup, the way we look at the world, all of those things, and we look at an industry or a situation or a business from that lens, and then we innovate it based on what we've experienced. So that's exactly what you're saying. You and your brother, you need both. You need the jump, you need the hold on, let's figure this out first. You need both, and they constantly pull on each other to move
Constantly,
forward. Yeah, to
constantly.
move forward, kind of hold back. That balance is required for the success you're seeing. If you don't have both of those things, you're either going to run headlong into a wall somewhere, because that definitely could happen, or you're going to just stay safe and not do anything. So that innovation is what helped you grow into what you're doing.
The other thing I did, thinking back, and I didn't know I was doing it at the time, I refused to surround myself with yes people. I needed people that were gonna, like, tell me, "No, that's a horrible idea." And I'd say, "Okay, why?" And then the next question I'd ask is, "Well, what if it works?" Like, um, so I needed people to challenge me, and I refused. I never felt comfortable with yes people around me. Um, I had to have a thick skin. I'm not gonna. That's a tough thing to start developing. But once I started surrounding myself with the people that I realized I needed people that were smarter than I was, and more experienced in certain subject matters around me, um, and not surround myself with the yes people that are going to pat me in the back, say, "Oh, you're the man." Then I really started to excel.
Because, okay, so let me ask a question about that. Do you agree that basically once you took the emotions out of these kinds of decisions and actually opened up to people you trusted, and you trusted them for a reason, you didn't just pick somebody off the street and ask them, what do you think, right? So you trusted them for a reason, you removed the emotions of how it made you feel if they challenged what you had to do and what you thought. Um, how much faster do you think you could move or you did move because of that?
Exception, I moved quicker once I started to accept that reality. I regret that it took me so many years to accept that reality.
Yeah, we all do. Yeah, but we can only accept it when we accept it, and then we realize it. I meet
Yeah,
so many people.
yeah, I think it's like at that point in my life, I was probably ready to accept it, but before that, I wasn't. And that's the reality with everything in life. Certain people you could are willing to are at a point in their life with a certain mindset that they could hear the truth, and certain people aren't, and that's where I was at that moment in my life.
Yeah, it took me about, unfortunately, 15 years to get to that point. And before then, I just was like, nope, I'm a superhero, solo entrepreneur, doing it all on my own. I can figure it out. Yeah,
You and I both. It was about 15 years. Yeah.
yeah. And so I look back at those 15 years and go, time is
Yeah.
all we've got.
I mean, I was moving, but I could have moved quicker if I had to.
Yeah.
The other thing I could have done that I realized, and this was imperative, was networking and going to networking events. I was so concentrated, like blindfolds on, right? I was so concentrated on the next deal, on the next deal, on the next performance, the next profit, that I didn't have time, nor did I have the patience to be around in a room to talk to people. I hated talking to people, and hence the reason why my brother always did the sales. I was always the guy in the background. It's kind of funny today. Now it's the opposite way around. But the truth is, I didn't want to talk to anyone because I felt it was a waste of time. Versus today, it's totally different. If you're not networking, you're going to be left behind. If you're not networking and you're not accepting technology, the reality is whether you like it or not, it's going to run right past you. Like I tell people, AI is not going to beat you. The person who's using AI is going to beat you. Um, if you're not networking, you're not accepting the reality that we got to continuously pivot as business people in our segment market, we're going to get left behind.
Yes, absolutely. And when you say networking, I agree with you. And I know, remembering you on stage talking about this, it's all about relationships. It's the relationships you build. It's not just going and finding that property. The property isn't just going to all of a sudden appear in front of you. It's because of the people you've built relationship with that introduce you or tell you, hey, I've heard about this, or hey, you know what, I saw this. That that's what networking really is about. Building those really highly valued relationships.
So it's funny. I This happened in 2000. Was it? I think it was 2019. I never knew what a recasting of a loan was. I didn't even know that was available. I mean, it sounds crazy. 2019, Dan Borrero, thousands of deals. Didn't know that, right? I'm at a networking event in Dallas, Texas, and I tell people at the bar at night is where you make your best contacts, right? Whatever you do, don't go there to drink. I'll nurse a gin and tonic. It's actually filled with it looks like gin and tonic, but it's really salsa with lime, and I'll nurse that all night long. And I just want to listen. And one of the people I was listening to talked to someone else that was in the circle, was talking about recasting the loan. So I come home, I immediately call up all my mortgage brokers, my banks rather, that had mortgages. At the time, I only had about 13 of them left. I was able to recast five of them, lowering my monthly payments like by
From one
thousands.
conversation.
From a conversation I was listening to, I didn't even ask a question. I just listened to what they were saying at the bar, at a networking event that had already, the networking event ended at 5. Now people go to dinner and they hanging out at the bar at night. That's where you make your biggest contact.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, so That's, I think, is really important. So, everyone listening, the bravery you need isn't just networking and posturing and putting yourself out there as a whatever expert or anything. Really, I don't, would you agree? The strongest skill you can hone is listening,
I would,
actively listening, not just
yes,
hearing it and letting it go out and thinking about what you're going to say next.
yeah,
Actively listening.
it's not only listening, but having the courage to walk in the room knowing that everyone in there got more money than you do, and everyone's out. It's very uncomfortable, but that's the way you're going to grow. When you want to get to the level that they're at, you got to put yourself in that room, and sometimes you got to spend some serious dollars to put yourself in that room. But I've never spent money to put myself in that room and not recoup it within 6 months, literally, from something I learned or a relationship I developed. But it's extremely uncomfortable, and you got to get past that uncomfort.
Yeah. So, what about the difference between, let's say, time and positioning when it comes to preparing for whatever market's coming ahead of us, good, bad, or indifferent? What do you think is most important? Time and just waiting for that, or how can you position yourself to prepare for whatever market is coming our way?
So I've never prepared for a market that's coming my way when I see it coming. I'm always prepared for it prior to it, and you know, uh, there's a lot to be said. When people say you got to live below your means, it's the truth. Um, that's not difficult for my wife and I because we didn't come up with much. We weren't brought up with luxury. We didn't grow up with a silver spoon in our mouths. But it's funny. We don't. Neither does it attract. Neither are we attracted to it. Do I have a Rolex watch? Yeah, I have a Rolex watch primarily for when I go to events. I don't even want a. I didn't need it. Um, but do I drive? Do I drive an expensive BMW? No, the most expensive car I have is my Silverado. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. When I turned 60, I treated myself to a spanking brand new truck with all the bells and whistles, but I never did that before. I was driving a 22-year-old van that was a rust bucket to go to work. So, you know, do I have my Achilles heels? We do. I like taking my vacations. I like going to nice restaurants. Um, but I go to vacations with my kids. My kids are adults before, and one of them's married, and we all go together. Um, so I look at it like I'm spending my wealth. I tell my kids I don't want to leave you a dime. I want to spend it all. And are they going to get money? Of course they are, because we're not lavish people. We're not spending it like that. But we spend our money on memories, primary experience. I don't need, we live in the same house for 28 years. Is my house nice? Yeah, it's really nice. But we're not moving to the next biggest shiny thing. So if you want to prepare for the opportunity, you could educate yourself so you could recognize the opportunities. But if you're not financially prepared, you're not going to be able to take advantage of those opportunities. So the other thing I tell people is there is no business that costs you no money. There's a lot of people out there selling you the idea you get into wholesaling, it costs you nothing. That's a lie. You got to pay the person to teach you to do wholesaling. You got to pay for those leads. You got to pay for the VA. There's so many things that you got to pay for. You got to pay for the mailing. You got to pay. There's so many things you're going to have to spend money on. So nothing out here is for free. And if you come to me and say, "Oh, I want to get into this business using other people's money," I say, "Okay, absolutely. What do you do for a living?" "Oh, I just quote unquote happened. He works at a prison." "Okay, no problems. How many deals have you done?" "None." "Well, why would anybody give you money? Why would I give you my money to do something that I know I could do better than you?" I says, "What? How much money do you make?" He says he does about 180,000 a year, lives at home. He's 35 years old, and doesn't have more than $15,000 in the bank. And I says, "Why?" He says, "Well, I take really good vacations. My BMW is about 1,400 a month." He's telling me about all these luxury things. He goes, "I get bottle service when I go out. I got this, I got that." I said, but none of that, I said, so now let me see if I got this right. You have no relationship with money. You have no understanding of how money works, but you want people to give you money for you to go buy, fix and flip? So you have to have a relationship with money. You have to have an understanding of how money works. Um, Develop that first before you want to get into business. Create a relationship with money. Mhm. So what do I mean by that? You know, one of the things I regret that our educational system doesn't teach is financial responsibility, fiscal knowledge, right? There is a woman out there. She's doing a great job. She's got a book, Mind Your Money, it's called. And she works with an organization trying to get the states to require high schools to provide at least 2 classes prior to graduation of financial literacy. What does that mean? What is a bank account? What is compound interest? What is a yield? What's a dividend? How do you buy a stock? How do you not decide whether to buy a stock or a bond or crypto? When you're going to college, right? If you want to be a teacher, for instance, do you want to go spend $200,000 on an education and be a teacher when you could go to community college and spend $40,000 and it's going to make you the same amount of money because your particular county doesn't care where your degree comes from, right? These are the things we're talking about. What is a check? What's a money order? What's a bank check? What's a certified check? Um, you know, how does money work? How does compound interest work? Right? How do you invest to get higher yields but still stay within the conservative side? These are the things that we're not teaching our kids. And it's funny, my kids have that advantage, right? Because at the dinner table, uh, there's a lot of people that say you shouldn't talk politics or economics or money with your kids at the dinner table. And I was like, why not? Why not? Right. So do my kids do well? They do, but that's because mom and dad had the experience. Whereas when my wife and I were growing up, we were growing up in survival mode, right? There was different conversations at the table, right? Because we were growing up in survival mode. So these are the things. Just because you had to grow up in survival mode doesn't mean that you can't learn these things. You got to take the time out and do the work and learn it.
That's it. And that's where the time comes in, right? That you and I, same thing, survival. So that might take us a little longer to understand and learn and go beyond survival and start uh, trying to create abundance. Instead of the scarcity that we were raised in, we're trying to create abundance. And then we can pass that on to our children, and they're going to start higher than we were, or at least further along than we were. And who knows where they can go as long as they also get that lesson of work ethic. Not like, here you go, here's your money, I'm going to buy you a BMW for your 18th
No.
birthday and blah blah. No, if they have that work ethic that we can pass on to them as well, then they can go even further and continue. And we've made that switch from we're just getting by, just surviving, and all the mental and emotional stuff that brings, and then we can switch that to no, you can actually create abundance no matter what. So let's talk about that because, again, there's all the questions, oh, the economy, and oh, Trump this, and oh, Biden that, and oh, how do you, so you mentioned relationship with money. You mentioned preparing for a particular market before it happens. Um, how are you doing that? How are you doing that?
I'm constantly looking at political situations, right? So let's take the last election. And this is not a political statement. This is just reality. I tell people I couldn't care less who's in the White House. I'm going to make money. Now, do I care less who's in the White House for social responsibility issues? That's a different argument. Or for foreign affair issues, yes. But when it comes to making money, I'm not going to let a governor, a mayor, a president determine my financial wealth or my financial success. But I am going to look for the opportunities in their rhetoric, right? And what's most likely going to happen. They're all going to promise you at least 1,000 things. And if they get maybe 50 of them done,
You're
50,
lucky. You're
you're,
lucky.
right? But the truth is that, especially the president, they got the podium. When they speak, the markets move. I'll give you an example of how I prepared for this presidency. I listened to what they were both saying. So I assumed if Harris won, she was going to take away the accelerated depreciation that Trump had put in 2000, I think it was 2017,
16. Yeah, 17. Yeah. Mhm.
which is a great benefit to real estate investors. So I did some major capital improvements in my buildings before the end of the year. Like the last 3 months of the year, I mean, I was rocking and rolling. So I spent a lot of money and I took home a lot less money. But I got all that depreciation, so I made that money back in 2020, the following year, 2025, right? Now, I also knew that if Trump won, price of material was going to go through the roof with his rhetoric, assuming he did remotely half of what he said he was going to do, and he surpassed what I thought he was going to do with that, with the tariffs. So, I knew I was going to have jobs coming up, certain apartments and certain buildings that were going to be leaving, that I wanted to renovate because I hadn't touched those apartments in 20 years, let's say, right? So I mean, I think I bought like 600 pounds of inch and 5/8 screws, which is something that I use like crazy. I bought those at like 2 and a quarter a pound. I mean, they're hovering now at Home Depot at like 6.99 to 7.99 a pound, right? So, you look at me and you say, but why would you buy 600 pounds? Because I used them, right? I literally saved almost 100% for what the price is today, right? Rolls of insulation, R19 insulation. I knew I was going to use them. I bought 500 rolls of that. I'm saving about 35% from what I bought it at. But the best part is I was able to take some tax deduction in 2000, the year before. So, I prepared with stuff that I knew I was going to use. There's other things that I did in the financial market that I also prepared for. Like, I'm not a big crypto guy, but I did buy some more crypto. I did buy some additional AI stocks, things like that. So I prepare according to whoever's coming in or who has a probability of coming in. But once we knew who was coming in November, then I really went, all out to the wall. Um, so again, I made a lot of money. But I would have made money no matter who came into office.
Yeah. You prepared. Yeah.
You prepared, if
And
that
you
makes
took the emotion out of it. You took the chaos out of, oh no, go this way, or oh no, go that way. And you're like, okay, no, if this one wins, this is what they're saying they're going to do. So I'm going to believe them and prepare. If this one wins, this is what they're saying they're going to do. I'm going to believe them and I'm going to prepare. And
right.
so listen to the fortunes of the brave. That is bravery. That is preparedness. That is courage to look straight ahead, accept reality, not whine about what I want, and move and take steps to make it happen so that you are prepared no matter, and you are secure no matter who's in that office.
It doesn't matter who's in office. But you have to listen. I'll give you another quick example. We own a lot of property in Florida, and I loved the condo business in Florida. I loved it. I should say past tense.
Ah.
So, um, you know, Ron DeSantis was talking a lot of rhetoric after that building fell in South Florida. And when you look at the reasons why it fell because the department that oversees the licenses for HOA managers didn't do their job, right? The Department of Buildings didn't do their job. The Department of the Fire Department didn't do their job. So, in order to take away the target on those three organizations, on all those organizations, he wants to blame everyone else, just like Mandami wants to blame landlords in the city of New York for all New York City's problems right now,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So they came out with these two laws, or they were discussing it, and I'm like telling my partner, who's my brother, I'm like, you know, David, this is what I'm reading, and this is what I think is going to happen. And he says, no, that they would never happen. I said, why not? I said, they're giving him everything he wants. The assemblies get the underlings that are supposed to be putting him in check are giving him everything he wants. I think we need to start selling some of these properties off. Well, doors that I was selling 2.5 years ago, because of the rhetoric I saw DeSantis talking about, I was selling them at 200. They're now down to 120. If I wanted to go buy the same doors, same community, 120, right?
Wow.
And we sold a lot of doors. We sold about 75, 78% of our doors. But again, people didn't believe it was going to happen, but you have to look at the history and the correlation
Yeah.
and, if the checks and balances that are in place. And state government has it, local governments have them, federal governments have it. But if the checks and balances are not really working, um, then you have to take and that was a defensive position, not an offensive position.
Right.
Um, so we started as doors became available. I raised rents to the point where people wanted to leave because they didn't want to pay the ridiculous rent increase. And then I'd go in there, clean it, fix it, and put them on the MLS. And we were selling them quickly. Thank God we did, right?
Yeah.
Now we have all that money to go out and buy again, but at a lower price point.
Yeah. Yeah. And that you it sounds like you're not just looking at the rhetoric of a particular person in office, but you're also looking at the direction of the society of that particular state or that particular region, because you saw that it's not just that person, but you saw the direction of the society was allowing that person to do what they wanted to do based on whatever the politics was at the time. Whereas if they were going to be, let's say, in the midterms, and that person was going to have less control, less power, then you would look at it differently, because then you would see, well, they're not going to be able to get as much as they want, so I can change this. So listening, keeping your eye on what's actually happening, especially in the states and the areas where you want to or do own assets, um, that's how you can prepare. And I just see so much emotion in the world, but money does not respond. At least wealth building does not respond to emotion.
It was like I remember when Obamacare was coming out, and people would ask me, "What you think?" I said, "I don't know, because I don't understand it. I don't, you can try to read what they put out to the public. It's like this big, right?
Yeah, 900 and something
Or
pages or whatever. Yeah, it was
the
ridiculous.
words they're using is like so contrary to each other. So I decided to watch the healthcare stocks. Like, why? And I'm like, if they go down, then that means this policy is going to be good for us because that means they're going to make less money. If they go up, that policy is not good for us because they're going to be making more money. And sure enough, healthcare stocks went through the roof. And I was like, yeah,
Uh,
that'd be a good thing for
it's
us. Sure
not.
enough, it wasn't.
No, especially entrepreneurs. Oh
Oh
my
my
gosh.
God. Yeah, my premiums doubled.
Yeah, absolutely. Family of four. Actually, mine ended up tripling. It
Yeah,
was
it was
crazy.
like I was like, what the hell? But if you were on that
Yes.
Obamacare, it was
Yes.
great for
It was
you.
fine. That's right. But it required us to do that. The only way you could keep your premiums down is if you took assistance from the government. It's
Right.
like,
But
that's not my nature. I know. I'm
yeah,
not
but
doing it.
it was actually more expensive. I went through Obamacare. I had to go
Oh,
private, but still, it more than doubled.
yeah.
But I tell people, I said, you think everybody was saying how good it was going to be? I says, I don't need to know how good it was going to be or the details. I just know if health insurance stocks are going up through the roof, it's not good for us,
No,
and that's exactly what happened.
that's exactly. Yeah.
So there's certain things that the signs are all around us. It's just if we trained ourselves to understand what the signs are.
Yeah. Dan, it's been an incredible conversation. Thank you so much. I obviously am talking to a kindred spirit here, and I'm definitely enjoyed it. Is there any last bit of advice? Someone who's listening going, "Oh my goodness, okay, so I'm going to do more networking. I'm going to watch the markets. I'm going to look at politics less emotionally, more strategically so that I can build wealth." Is there anything else you'd like to leave us with to help us grow in this wonderful wealth building universe?
Enjoy the moments. Enjoy the moments. When I was younger, I remember I did my first $1 million deal. I didn't even come home and tell my wife about it until 3 days later because I was so preoccupied with the next deal. And thinking back, I should have celebrated that moment, right? Um, so stop and smell the roses. The success is going to come just as long as you're doing the work, but stop and smell the roses and with the people that matter.
Well, I think that brings us full circle back to the fact that when you wake up every day, be
Yep,
grateful that you woke up,
this is
look at
true.
it that way, and then dive in and do what you got to do.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. I
Thank you for the invite. I
Yeah,
appreciate me being here.
enjoyed it. Have a great day.
Thank you.
We're here to share insights and bold moves in our quest to help everyone gain more financial freedom. Subscribe on your favorite platform and play your part in Planet Wealth's mission to reignite the American dream.